This is Apter. I'm a professional drummer living, working here in Nashville, and I like to donate about an hour of my time every week, or a half hour. Today is probably going to be more like, so I can just answer questions about what it's like to live and work in Nashville, what it's like to work as a professional musician, what it's like to start over again from scratch, because about a year or two ago, I basically started my musical career over from scratch, had no instruments, really had nothing, hadn't played music in years, and now I am quite literally in the thick of it. Literally running home from a gig right now. I'm just getting everything set up, but running home from a gig to continue on with my live chat, which I've been doing for about 6 months now. And yeah, I've been doing YouTube for about a year now, and things are slowly starting to take off. It hasn't been viral, it hasn't had like this huge hockey stick kind of growth, but it's kind of been more like a ebb and flow as we're getting up there. So yeah, but gigs are coming more and more lately, more and more opportunities coming lately, more and more decisions to make, and more means less and less sleep, less and less time to get organized, and more time to start making some serious decisions about what I'm doing with my future, what I'm doing with my musical career. Oh, hello. Sorry, this. Also, if you don't know, this is the Tiny Tennessee Terror. He's also a cat. I've done a video about him as well, and he's way more famous than I'm not famous. Nobody knows me, but he has 16,000 followers on Instagram. So if you want to follow him, it's at Tiny Tennessee Terror at Instagram. But cats aside, I'm here to really just talk about music and talk about things in the music industry that aren't really covered. You know, things about the personal aspect, the networking aspect. You know, everyone says you need to be a good hang, but what's a good hang? And I also like to use this time to kind of answer questions about, you know, what's been going on. And also, I can't always get to my questions on my videos during the week because I've just been going nonstop lately. So I'm going to try to answer a few questions from my videos from earlier this week. But if anybody has any questions, let me know. Drop me a message, tell me where you're from, tell me where you're tuning in from. If you have any questions about what it's like to live and work in Nashville, you know, that's what I'm here to do. I'm happy to do all those things. But I just, I did a video this week about a weekend I did, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, where I had to, it was just a fire drill. I literally, less than 24 hours before the gig, we didn't know how we were gonna get there. We didn't have a van. I had no information. I just knew I had to be somewhere about 6 or 7 hours away and I needed to find a way to get there. So I did a video about that, and it's entitled, So You Want to Be a Road Musician? Watch this first. And you can check that out on my channel, but I've gotten a lot of comments from that. And I've been pretty much playing since I posted that video, but I wanted to answer a few questions and just see some comments here. But also, if anybody has any questions, shoot them in the chat, because I can't always get to questions during the week now. And yeah, let's, I want to see someone commented earlier today that says, I've toured for over 30 years, usually 6 nights a week in Europe. The number one for me was fatigue and not eating properly. It's a young man's game. Sometimes we drop lucky and play the same venue for a week. It was like a holiday for us. Good luck to you. And yeah, so when you think about, I think he's really underscoring a huge point about working as a musician. And so much about music is not about playing music. It's about all the things that get you to the point where you can play music. And so many of us really focus, which I think is great. We focus on our craft and we want to be the best we can at our instruments, but some of us don't think about all these other things that get us there. And a big part of my gig is managing logistics, managing personalities, and keeping level-headed and solving crises. And now I need to be competent and proficient at my instrument, but if I'm the greatest person in the world at my instrument, there's still not, people will not hire me just based on that. They want to know me, they want to know they can work with me, and that's something I really didn't figure out when I was younger. So I want to see what some other questions are. So someone says, I don't miss that poop, 38 years on the road. That's a fair question. And so then also somebody says, typical of the drummer being pooped on again, lack of better terms. Thanks, Aaron, for what you do and have given. And, I really didn't see that whole experience as me being kind of crapped all over. Sometimes some wires get crossed, the ball gets dropped. I think a lot of people aren't intentionally trying to, harm you. There are some people that are pretty inconsiderate, but really, you have to figure out like where your lines are as a musician and what you're willing to deal with and tolerate personally. And there are times where I have to go above and beyond what my duties are. And I hear a lot of people say, hey, you hired me to play drums or you hired me to play bass, not to do this. And I totally understand that, and that's accurate. But if you have that attitude and you're not willing to do other things, it can be really hard to progress your career. Okay? And I think regardless of what level you are, whether you're starting out, whether you're kind of evolving, whether you're at the top of the top, everyone has to make some compromises. Everyone has to do some things to say, okay, I want to make this gig happen. And sometimes you are totally entitled to just say like, hey, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And sometimes you need to do that. But I always think, what is that going to do for my career? What's the risk reward? And sometimes if you tell somebody, I can't do this gig because you don't have your things together, you might have a point, but is that going to do you any favors? Or is that going to like give you a reputation? And is that fair? Absolutely not. But these are all things that, I want you to, want others to think about. So somebody else says, driving 12 hours total for a gig with 100 people, ? Stay home. You can do that without the driving. This kind of experience is more often than not. Being a road musician is a rough life. By the time he's 45, when he gets a call for a gig like this, he'll tell them, no, I ain't worth it. Probably by the time he's 45, he'll have a day job and just play on the weekends, so he'll have to come to his senses. Thanks for the video, learn from his experience. And, wow. So this was Ken Teal who said this. And I get a lot of comments like this, and a lot of people they're telling me what to do, or they're telling me I'm stupid, or, oh, you should do this. And, okay. I mean, like, you are entitled to do that on the internet, and that doesn't bother me at all. And actually, a lot of what these people are saying is what I would say when I was younger. I can tell you right now, having an attitude like that didn't serve me when I was younger, and it probably is not going to serve anybody here today. And, it's, driving 12 hours for 100 people total. Yeah, that's what you got to do. That's called paying your dues. And when I was younger, I thought, paying your dues is kind of like, that's a sucker's game, or for that's people who are just going to let themselves be walked all over. And I really don't like to let myself be walked over. But it's also like, I have to think about what's my overarching goal? What am I trying to do with my career? I'm trying to build a network. I'm trying to build relationships. I'm trying to start knowing as many people and getting as many opportunities as I possibly can. And a lot of times, if you just think about a gig just in the pay of you're going to get at that gig, on just that singular gig, you're missing the big picture. I say, what do you think about what kind of relationships can you make with this gig? How can you use this gig to leverage other opportunities? And so, for example, I made a video about this gig where I drove 12 hours, as Ken says, to play with 100 people. And he says, I can do that without driving. But I made a video about that, and I've probably gotten about 10,000 views off of it. Probably gotten about 100 new followers off of it. Is that paying me money right now? Maybe I'll make maybe $5 off it, maybe if that's. But that's not the whole point. It's, I'm thinking this is a really interesting thing. If I show this, give some other people information, that's all part of who I am. That's part of what I'm doing with my career. I'm taking people along for the ride and letting them see what it's like. And is having a few new followers for a YouTube video totally worth it? No, but this is all part of the journey. Meeting people, and I'm like, I can get some experience playing with other people, playing music I don't know. I can get some video content. I can put some stuff up on YouTube. And this video has been, compared to my other videos, it's doing pretty well. And I'm getting some new followers from that. From those new followers, I can start doing other things, branching out, right? Let's say one day I always tell people, what if I write a book? If I have 20 people on my YouTube following say, hey, guys, come buy my book, no one's gonna buy it. But if I have 10,000 people following who have followed me with the journey, they're gonna be like, oh, I like what Aaron has to say, I will buy that book. And so kind of what I'm doing here is building an audience. And hey, Joel, thanks for tuning in. Joel is watching. Joel is a guitarist in Arizona. He says he was watching Acme. Yeah, so Joel wanted to say, I want to say that Cara seems to be an example of a musician who has found her place of success as she defines I can't, let me see if I can read that that's a, yeah. Joel, you make a really good point about Cara is, she isn't famous, but she's well known, and she's well known in certain musical circles, and she's making a living playing the music that she wants to play. And she's not doing the daily grind like I am, where I'm probably playing about 6-7 gigs a week minimum. Usually it's about 10 to 12. I try to stream about 3 to 4 of them to give people a look at what I'm doing. But I'm definitely grinding right now. Sometimes I'll make $50 on a gig, sometimes I'll make 100, sometimes I'll make 400. But really what I'm trying to do is, again, get myself exposed, meet new people. Cara's kind of established her place in this world, right? And she has a certain audience, and she has certain income streams that she can rely on. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Joel, because so Cara and I were just talking. So we have some dates in Northern California coming up, and we're talking about whether we should take the entire band, whether I should do them, or whether she should hire local people. Now, of course, she would like to take me and not hire local people, but we really have to talk about budget, right? Because money is, that's how you eat. That's how you survive in this music world, right? If I don't make money, yeah. So Cara and I were talking about that, and she was like, I don't know if I can. I'm like, well, Cara, let's try and figure this out. So one of the things is getting gear out in Northern California. Like, are we gonna have to rent gear? Because a lot of the places we're playing, they're not gonna have backline. So I'm like, you know what, Cara, I'm starting to build a network. Let me see if I can get some backline gear. So I might be putting out a call to anybody in Northern California if they can help with maybe a drum set. And it's worth a shot. I'm also starting to work with a few new music companies right now and maybe say, hey, would you, if I did a video about our touring experience, and would you, showcasing the gear that you let us use for this, would you give us free gear? And I might gonna kind of poke around and see what that does. And it's worth a shot, right? Will it work? I have no idea. But I think a lot of times when you're a musician now, you can't think solely of just music. You can't think solely of just like, oh, I want to put this cool video and people are going to like it and all of a sudden I'm going to get money. It's like, what are you trying to do? What's your intentions? And really what my intentions are, is like, I want to support myself playing music. I want to play music with people I love and enjoy. And I'm going to finance my own artistic solo projects and my solo work by playing drums for other people. And playing drums for people that I like and people that are musically fulfilling and personally fulfilling. And that's really, really tough right now. I'm not going to lie. It is not for the faint of heart, especially when you're living hand to mouth a lot of the times. But like with doing that gig where I drove 12 hours to play for 100 people, I was able to do a video out of that, and that's starting to get some people paying attention. And you know what? Like, what if that video laid the groundwork for me to make some connections with other people, other music companies as well? So it's all really like, you have to think about things like a marathon. Yeah, and Nelly says Cara is famous enough to be on Wikipedia. Yeah, Cara, she has some really interesting pull in some musical circles. Yes, Cara has a Wikipedia page, and Cara's, she's really talented and she's really good at what she does. But also Cara's she's like, hey, Aaron, like, she's starting to ask me about like things about marketing, networking, how I can help the whole cause. And again, this is part of the value that I offer as a musician. Like, I'm not just playing music, but I'm saying, what else can I bring to the table? And I think with any career you have, it's not just about how good you are at your profession or your craft, but it's what kind of person you are and what can you bring to the team. And is it my job to raise funds for Kara's tour? No, absolutely not. But I like playing with her, and I want to see if like there's maybe a drum manufacturer that can maybe help sponsor this tour so we can go out and play it. Yeah, so I want to see. So we have Jose says he took your advice from Manuel Einstein's doing gig work over band work. It's scary undertaking considering I've only been a 2-year drummer. I'm anticipating the crash and burn. Well, man, so what I can tell you, Jose, is that like whatever you do, there's always going to be some adversity. There's always going to be some crashing. That's just what happens. And really, I would encourage people to embrace failure because failure is one of the most valuable parts of the learning process. And I am dead serious, and I'm not like using some kind of, Reader's Digest wisdom. It really, when you fail doing something, you have all this, it's basically like a crime scene, right? It's like you had this body, and that's your failure, your dream. So you can look at all the information around and say, what happened here? You have to like kind of play a forensic, forensic detective. What led me to this point, and what caused this dream to totally crash and burn? And I've crashed and burned so many times. I've like gone off to New York with no idea of how. I was like, I'm just gonna go there and make it. Same thing with Chicago. But I had no concept, I had no intention of what I was trying to do. And I wasn't really trying to network in the way I thought you needed to network. I was thinking, I'm not gonna play for free. I'm like, no, I'm a professional musician. And all those things didn't really work for me. And looking back on all my failures when I was younger has really informed my success going forward. Now, I'm not saying you just want to fail just and say, yippee, but understand that failing is a part of the process, but instead of being afraid of that failure, if it happens, realize this is a great thing, I'm gonna learn something from it, gotta keep moving forward. And so, like, really, Jose, like, really, you just have to go out there and keep playing and, be patient. Especially, you've been doing this for 2 years, man. It's like, this is a lifetime journey, so enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. So yeah, getting back to like with Kara, I was definitely, I'm going to see if I can reach out to some people. I'm going to make some contacts. But if you're in Northern California and you're a musician, yeah, let me know because we might need to like get some gear. I might want to try to get hooked up with some kind of sponsor. And that would be so great if I could like show my viewers what that process is like. Like, I'm not trying to like hide behind any like, I'm too big for this stuff or like, I'm not begging. I'm like, no, I'm a musician. I have an audience. I'm working with other musicians who have an audience. We have something to offer and we're good musicians. And I've spent a lot of time doing the YouTube stuff, grinding out some of these gigs where it doesn't pay off in right then and there. And sometimes it is really demoralizing and sometimes it's exhausting. I'm exhausted right now today. Like, I am always exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally. But I love what I do. And one of the things that I really enjoy is I want my success to inspire other people. Like, I want to feel like, oh, if I'm pulling off something that people have been following me from like the start, it is a gift to them as well. And I hope it inspires them. And all the people who have donated, like Joel has donated before, Nelly has donated multiple times, like I sincerely appreciate it. And you're one of the reasons why I do this because I'm like, oh, people are getting enjoyment over this. They're getting hope. They're getting inspiration, maybe information. And like, imagine somebody you were watching, like, imagine what if you like knew Taylor Swift when she was like 10 and you support her musical career and you saw that meteoric rise, right? That is pretty inspiring. And that doesn't happen without support of others. And I really think about, I'm going on a journey, I'm taking everybody with me, right? And that's why I always try to answer comments, answer emails. I can't always get to them like right now. It's pretty overwhelming. But that's also why I do these chats. So if people want to chat, now's the time to get me. I really am enjoying taking all of you with me. And like Carolyn Ellis, she's also donated. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And I don't care if it's like 1 cent or $1 million. No one's donated $1 million, but like just knowing that people are backing me, I really appreciate it, and that inspires me to like go out. Okay, I can stream a little bit more this week because more people are watching. Okay, or like or I'm getting like a little bit more money coming in, so I can invest a little bit more into that data. So Alan says, do you like Eloy Coscray drummer? I do not know that drummer, so I'm sorry. I can't really tell you. But, shoot me a link of their stuff, and I'll see if I can check it out. So also, I'm looking at some questions from this video about me driving last, a week or two ago. And then someone says, like, who drove all the distance to play a gig? For me personally, I've done something similar in the past. After learning a bit more and aging a bit more, I won't leave my immediate area unless the pay would justify such a thing. I'll drive a couple hours to a winery gig, but that's about it. What I normally get paid for a gig, it looked like, yeah. And you know what? Like, some people are like, yeah, it's stupid to leave your town. I'm like, I'm not saying that is correct or incorrect. That might be true for you. And everyone has their different definitions of success. Everyone has different things that they want to do. And again, a lot of this, I'm not doing this just for pay, but I'm doing this to just continue developing my career. But I also think there's like value in like doing some of these tough weekends where you don't make the money you want, or maybe don't have the expectations met. But if you share that with other people, especially musicians, it gives other musicians kind of a sobering look at the reality of it, but also permission to say, you know what, it's okay. Like, sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves. Sometimes you got to find things out the hard way. Yeah, and so like Joel is like saying, it's crazy how you still manage to stream even with all the gigs. Man, Joel, it is, I can't tell you. So a lot of times when I'm setting up streams, I have 15 minutes to set up. And I have to make sure the levels are right. I have to make sure the angle's right. I have to make sure the drums are tuned. I have to make, is this going on? And for example, like today, like this GoPro I have, it's haunted. It like dropped down in the middle of the stream. And I'm like, oh, well, there goes that. But somehow, yes, somehow we just got to keep going. And so then also, like, somebody asked me, so somebody says, what the artist management or the people who hired you had the transport sorted? I played in touring bands for years, and we either sorted it out ourselves or a manager would do it. So, and I would say, yeah, somebody does usually have it sorted out. Maybe the management, someone in the bands. But a lot of times when you're working your way up, people don't have management, and everyone's just like doing it on the fly. And the thing about people like musicians especially, musicians aren't trained in HR. They're not trained in logistics. They're not trained in all these professional things. They just want to play some music. And there's a lot of professional skills that you need to bring to the table. And sometimes those things get dropped. Now, would it be nice for it to be handled? Absolutely. But is me going and saying, well, I'm not going to do this because you don't have your professional stuff in line? It's sometimes, yeah, like, if I'm an A-list top call drummer, like Eddie Bayer or something like that, yeah, I can say, no, this isn't worth it for me. But right now, I'm not. And I'm trying to build my name. And I have the skills, but it's also really just about building the network, navigating this process. It is like working your way up through the minor leagues. And sometimes it's not my job to do that, but like it needs to get done. And like that's really what I try to do. And Jose, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. So Joel was talking about his brother's a bluegrass band, and he said one of their best paying gigs was driving to North Carolina from East Tennessee. And I mean, sometimes like it's worth it for the drive. A lot of times for me, like if I'm not driving, if I have to drive my own car, like I have to really think about it because my car is not operable right now. But that also like really the wear and tear on your car can really add up quickly. And if people want me to drive my own car, that's kind of where I draw the line. I'm like, well, you need to pay me mileage. Like I need like 60 cents per mile before I get paid. And, or like rent me a vehicle or like have me driven there. And it's, for me, that's just about like, unless it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity where I can like drive my own car, But I've driven my own car to like gigs that are like 3 or 4 hours away that paid maybe $100. And would I do that again? No, probably not. But I was doing that to continue when I first moved to Tennessee to continue building my chops, my experience, my knowledge, develop relationships with people. Uh, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at some more of these other messages. Yeah, so in some of these messages are really in really entertaining. Someone says, "Are you doing this just for fun?" I don't hear you mention the total costs of what you got paid. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing this for professional experience, but I'm also doing this to get paid. I think the pay that weekend wasn't that great. I think maybe I walked away with like $600 total, um, and it was a lot of work. And was it exactly worth the time and energy and effort? Like in terms of money, I would say like no. I would say I'm worth more, but it's also like I'm not looking things at just solely in terms of pay. And I think when you're trying to like develop your career, even if it's your full-time job, you have to look at things in terms of the long term. So Jose, you're asking skills versus networking. That's a great question. Like expand upon that, Jose. Now, like you have to have some sort of skills, right? You have to be competent enough. You have to be able to not be a liability to the people. Like I'm talking myself as a drummer, as a side musician. I have to not be a liability to the people, to musicians on stage. So I have to know my stuff. I have to not stick out. I have to not bring the band down. Okay, I have to play at their level or above. I have to be prepared. I have to not impact the show. And for some people, that's a lot on their plate. For other people, it's like, oh, I just need to play simply and not try to do anything crazy and not try to do anything extra. Just be prepared and keep the show moving. And so really, I think advice is very much like medicine. We all like need to take certain doses at certain times. And what might be true for somebody is not true for somebody else. But Jose, somebody like you, who's let's say you're 2 years in, I would say you want to continue developing your skills. You always want to be doing that, but also network while you're doing that. And a really great way to go about doing that is like think about how you want to appear to people. Think about how you want to present yourself. You tell people, hey, listen, instead of saying, hey, I'm just a new drummer, like if you want to take a chance on me, you say, hey, listen, my name's Jose. I'm a developing drummer. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I'm really serious about this. I really love it if you gave me an opportunity, and I would love to learn from you. What can I do to help make that happen, or how can I make this gig better for you? And then if you get a gig, just know your stuff. Show up prepared, and if you show up to the gig and shit hits the fan, just smile and keep it moving. Hey, Mick, thanks for joining. Just smile and keep it moving. That's my best advice. Because a lot of times people will remember a negative experience personally a lot more than if you like have a bad song. But if you like have a bad attitude, people are going to remember that for a while. And I had a really bad attitude when I was younger, and I think that goes for a lot of careers. So Jose said, for example, average drummer, high level networking. Does the beat out of high school for networking skill? I mean, it's all relative, right? Like, who are the musicians you're playing with? What are the venues you're playing? What are the expectations? And I think you need to be at in the same ballpark as everyone else. So let's talk about like football players, right? Like there are good, professional football players, and there are professional football players who aren't the stars, but they are competent at their jobs. But everyone there is kind of like in the same kind of universe of like we are excellent athletes. Now, if you have a high school player, go and try to hang out with like professional players, it's not going to work, right? Because they're just not in that stratosphere. But let's say like, you are just like a mid-level player. Let's say you're B level, whatever that means. Think about if you're going out and playing with like some all-star band of like the greatest musicians in the world, yeah, that might be a liability. But if you're playing with other people who are kind of your peers or kind of like within punching distance of you, come prepared and come prepared with a good attitude. And if you're trying to get to these big leagues, again, it's there has to be a certain amount of calculus. Like, do I need to be working on my skills? Do I need to be working on my networking? What is more important? Everyone's going to be at a different juncture in life. But again, I think it's very much like it's medicine. Advice is like medicine. You need to have something prescribed for you, right? But one thing, and that's why like I have a video coming out tomorrow, talking about advice, talking about networking, talking about things. I see so many musicians doing networking that is just such a waste of time. And I want to talk to people more about like what you should be doing or some better ways to approach networking. I'm also like starting to do like one of the things I'm starting to do online right now is I'm starting to do online lessons. Whether that's like talking about music, talking about like drum technique, talking about if you're a guitar player, bassist, whatever, talking about songs, tone, talking about groove. But then also a lot of people are just hiring me, say, listen, I just want to chat with you for a half hour to pick your brain, to kind of consult with you about like, I'm moving to Nashville. What do you think I should be doing? This is where I'm at. And so I started doing that, and there's a link right here in the description if you want to like schedule a Zoom consult or a lesson. I'm starting doing that, but I also have a video coming out about that tomorrow. I'm also still reading some of these comments from this video this week, and then somebody says, no rehearsal, not knowing the players or the songs, not knowing how you're getting to the gig, the night before the gig is the height of unprofessional behavior. Good luck with you. Good luck, and you will need a lot of luck to sound professional. And that's Ken Bash, 2951. So cool. Thanks for that. Thanks for that feedback, Ken. It doesn't really give me any actionable items, but and I always say when people, if you want to, but yeah, if you just want to post something there to make you sound yourself like you're cool, that's great. It doesn't bother me. But one thing I really want to tell people is that, yeah, you would like to know how everything is set up beforehand. You would like to have a lockdown on all these details, but music doesn't happen in a vacuum. The professional music world doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's always variables that could be unprofessional that you kind of have to deal with, right? What if there's like one little unprofessional thing? Do you say, this is unprofessional, and you walk away? No, because then you're going to be labeled difficult to work with. And are certain things that you're like, nope, I'm not going to, this is beyond, these are my boundaries, this is my limit. So I really want you to like, people should have their limits. But it's also like, you know what, a lot of this is attitude and perspective. Like that gig I played like a couple weeks ago, my iPad got locked out, had all the charts on it that I want to spend some more time learning and I didn't know off by hands. And I'm like, well, I got to make the gig happen now. And I had listened to the songs, and I've done a lot of my homework where I've been played with so many new artists and I played so many original material and I can kind of hear song forms very quickly and I can remember them very quickly. And sometimes when I'm writing out the charts, like it's just getting seared into my brain. And was that gig optimal? No, it was not. And there were some, I don't even want to say unprofessional, it's just like, the person who was regularly running the gig thought everything was handled and it wasn't. There was miscommunications. And my whole point was I wanted to step up for those people and I wanted to be an asset instead of complaining. And sometimes if you're an asset to people, they will want to call you again. Sometimes they take advantage of you and that's fine. And if they take advantage of you and the future you say, nope, I'm sorry, I'm busy, I can't do it. But I think it's better to like go and give your best effort than to show up with a bad attitude and say this is unprofessional. And that's where I'm at right now. Now, if I start building a name for myself, building a bigger reputation, starting building a bigger network, I can be a little bit more choosy about what I do and who I'm working with. Okay, but it's we all like evolve at different levels at different times. And like you have to be really real with what your status is. Are you internationally known? Do you have this huge professional network? Are you brand new like me? I've been in Nashville for like 2 years. I'm still building my network. I'm still earning my reputation in my space here. So I'm willing to do a little bit more on a gig, and I'm willing to kind of like just climb up the ranks here. Yeah. The Chandler Brown band, that was cool. You know, Chandler just actually got signed to Warner Chappell Records, so like he is going to be the songwriter now. He got a publishing deal. Great dude, and like you know what, I took some gigs with him on like 20 minutes notice, and I got paid like $100. But I have somebody like I have that connection now, and just building out that branch. You remember I was saying? Okay. And so yeah, I'm just oh boy, look at the time. So I can answer maybe a question or two, but like I'm gonna have to be going pretty soon because I have a lot of things to catch up with. And it's just been a nonstop week. I think I'm gonna try to stream my gigs on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. Wednesday, I'm going to be playing at Layla's The Late Shift. Gonna be doing like old school country. That's gonna be from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Thursday, I'm kind of doing more of a classic '90s country singer songwriter, 2 to 6 with Jay Bragg. Also, we have great fiddle player Renee Truez on that gig, and we also. I think we have John Hibbard playing bass, and I've kept in touch with him for about like 2 years, and I think I played with him maybe once. But he's a great dude. I'm like, all right, cool, we got that connection. Doing a gig with Aaron Nichols at Valentine on Friday, and I might be going on the road this weekend. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take camera with me, but I'll keep everyone posted on that. But if there's anything you want to see, if you have any videos you want to see, any content you want to see created, any questions you have, like shoot me a message, aaronaftermusic@gmail.com. I can't always get to them. I seriously have a backlog of messages, but I assure you that I'll eventually get around to it. But really, like right now, I'm like prioritizing like okay, like what are like the career opportunities, and because there's only so many hours in a day, and I have to like really. That's one thing I want to encourage people to do. Like spend some time to like step away from your phone. Like instead of answering emails as soon as they come in, like answer them once a day. And that's why I try to keep Instagram and Facebook off my phone. If somebody needs me and they're important enough, they'll have my phone number and they need me right away. But usually like the gigs that I want to get aren't going to be like, I need you right now. Now, when I first got into Nashville and I was trying to get any gig possible, yeah, I was always looking at Instagram, Facebook, emails because I would take anything and I was desperate to try to build my network. But I've really invested time in that and built some relationships, and okay, I want to like get past the point of just like some emergency calls because it can grind you down pretty quickly. And this is a marathon. Some miles you have to run a little bit harder than others, but like really keep in mind that like if you go too hard on 1 mile, it could tank your race. But if you go too easy on the mile, it could tank your race as well. So like be intentional with what you want to do. And that's the last thing I want to encourage people. Like think about what's your North Star. What's your definition of success? Why are you playing music? Are you playing music just because you want to be happy and enjoy it? If so, focus on what makes you happy. Don't focus on the money. If you're doing this solely for money and you want some kind of status, focus on the money. Chase after the money gigs. Think, how can I monetize things? And that may mean that you have to put some artistic pursuits on the back burner. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with playing cover band gigs because you know what? You can make good money doing that. It has a high floor and a low ceiling. Whereas if you want to do original music, it has a very low floor, very high ceiling. But if your goal is solely to make money, maybe you hedge your bets and do cover band stuff for a little while. And there's nothing wrong with that. But really think about what your intentions. If you just want to get better at music, man, play with anybody you possibly can. Anybody and everybody. Play with musicians who are better than you, but also play with musicians who are worse than you, less experienced. Learn how to work with them on a musical and a personal and professional level. Get into some big rooms where you're like, wow, these people are in a different world than me, and learn how to hang. Learn how to not make waves. Learn how to be just like, all right, I'm just gonna blend in, and I don't want to be a musical liability. And but also like I want to be a good dude to hang around. Yeah, so I'm gonna sign off here. It's been a long week, and I would like to say, so Jose has one quick question. Last week, where would you draw the line, Aaron? What's your North Star? That place where you'll be like, I made it. That's a really good question, Jose. And I could go forever on that. I do have lines that I will not play like in certain situations or people who are saying certain things, people who are espousing certain beliefs, of intolerance, hatred, bigotry, or they think that it's okay. Those are just lines I won't cross. And I think those are all relative to some people. And I think some people deserve grace and we all develop at different points in life. And you have to be knowing which battles to pick. But I also know that there's going to be consequences for me not playing with somebody. Like if they do something and I'm like, this is not in line with my values, and I say, hey, I can't do this, there will be consequences to pay for that. And you have to be willing to pay for consequences that cross your line. That's just part of what it is. Yeah, but like I would say, yeah, my North Star, man, really my North Star is what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use my career as a musician, as a drummer, to fund my artistic pursuits. I want to play with people who I am personally and professionally enriched by, so I can create my original music, my original work that I am proud of. I don't want to work any other job outside of music, and I want to create my own income stream that I am solely responsible for. So I can be working with artists and getting paid as a side musician, but let's say all those gigs dry up, I still have some source of income, maybe like passive income. Let's say I'm selling an online music course that is supporting me and supporting my goals as a musician. But I want to be happy. That's the main thing. I haven't been happy this year. I've had a pretty rough personal year. I've been going through a lot of grief and trauma and life changes, and I had some serious personal deficiencies that I've really been addressing, and some hard truths that I've been stepping up to. And there's one thing I could recommend to everybody is like, don't be afraid to go get counseling, go get therapy, because being happy with who you are as a person and understanding what motivates you and understanding maybe some of the trauma and some of the grief you carry with you can really affect the rest of your things. So like ultimately my goal is like I would like to be happy, I would like to have a family, I would like to be a good husband, a good father, a good brother, a good son, all those things. Yeah, and I haven't been those in the past, quite frankly. I don't have any kids, but you get the point. And like Han says, yeah, there's no making it, only living it. I mean, I think that's a good point, Cam. Like, and I love playing music. I'm happy playing music. There are things I would like to have a little bit. Well, I would like to have a lot more money. I would like to have a little bit more stability. I would like to have a little bit more personal, physical health and emotional health. I would like to repair some things in my past. I'm getting there. But instead of thinking like I have to get this, like really lean into like learning. I took a long time off from music, and I'm so glad that I was able to step back into it. And it's been the scariest process of my life, but also the most fulfilling, enriching, and rewarding. I've had a pretty rough past personal year, and I'm still working through that. But it's all part of the journey. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. So I'm gonna head out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Y'all have a great week.